don't know many people that have much extra money to splurge on little things, let alone on doing something like home improvements for your house. And us being, most of us in our like mid to late 20s, early 30s, it's about the time when we buy our first house, move out from our parents or whatnot, and you usually get a starter home, and what you initially want to do is add value to that house, make it your own, do little things to make it nicer. What I'd like to do today, because I'm in construction, is to show you some differences between hardwood floor and laminate interlocking floor, and also demonstrate to you how you can install a laminate floor into your house for a relatively cheap price if you're willing to do it yourself to take out the cost of labor, because in a lot of instances you're paying a lot more in labor than you are for the product itself, and it's really as easy as 1, 2, 3. And if we all had money, what I'd probably do is get hardwood floors installed into our house. And the standard is a 3/4 inch oak hardwood floor. This finish isn't one of my favorites, it's a tiger wood, but I just brought this out here tonight to show you what it's like, the thickness of it, and what they all come is in a tongue and groove. This is the tongue side, and then there's a groove in here. And what you do, they just like interlock together, and you have a big blind nailer, and you have to nail them all down, and air compressor, compressor hose, and there's a lot that goes to it. So it gets very costly and very expensive. And the average price per foot to buy hardwood is anywhere from $4 to close to $15 a foot, but on average between $5 and $6. So right there in product alone gets pretty expensive. What I'd like to share with you tonight is the laminate flooring. The laminate flooring, a lot of it is made to look like it's hardwood floors, but it's really not. It's just a composite of different materials with an aluminum oxide finish, and it has a nice padding vapor barrier on the bottom, so it makes it even easier to install. Before they had it like this, you used to have to get the padding itself, lay that all out, and then staple that down and then do the interlocking floors. The good thing about laminate floors are, like I said, they're very easy to install, and you really don't need many tools to do it, so that's not going to cost you much money there. And on top of that, the tools that you use aren't going to be like a big table saw or a circular saw, which scares people, especially, I know a lot of women who think of anything or any type of installation, and they're like, oh, I can't do that, I don't want to do that, I'm going to hurt myself. This is something anyone could do. I wouldn't have a problem teaching a 13-year-old kid how to do this and use all the tools involved in doing this. So, to install, well, with the laminate floor, also it's the same tongue and groove. This would be the tongue right here, and then the groove in here. And the main difference is it's a little thinner. It's only 8 millimeters to 12 millimeters as opposed to the 3/4 inch hardwood. And when they're laid on the ground, they basically look kind of the same. If you just want to take a look on like the width difference and whatever, but once it's on the floor, it's really hard to tell unless you know about hardwood and laminates. So, if you guys would like, I'd like to give you a little demonstration of like how to get it started and just how easy it really is to install this floor. Now, if you take a room like this, it's basically a square room. There's not much to it, not much cutting. So what you first want to do is you're going to want to start on your outside wall, which I would probably in this room, you could start anywhere. I could go in this direction, I could run it in this direction, or if you want to get fancy, you can even run it at a 45-degree angle. But for basic purposes, it's either run horizontally or vertically. So you want to start on the outside wall, and you want your tongue side, which is the smaller side here, to be against the wall. And I wanted to do this before, but I didn't. Move this out here. What we'll do is just take our first piece, start in the corner, and lay it flat up against the wall like that. If you guys want to come up here to get a better visual of what's going on. So that's going to be our starter piece. That's our first piece. And one thing you might want to do before this is you want to check to see if your walls are square. So you just take a little square. These are going to be square. These are good. So we can basically run just off this wall. That's not usually the case. If you go into any house, I can't tell you any house that's even like close to square. So what you do is you take a measurement off the front wall. If this is 5 inches, we're going to measure out 5 1/4 inches on either end, and then chalk a straight line, just so we know that we're running our product straight. So now that this is already square, we put our tongue piece down against the wall, and to put our second piece in, just run it the same way, and then this little groove slides right underneath that, and it's going to lock right in. Now we still have a gap there. So the only tools we're going to need to install this project are going to be a hammer, a tape measure, and we don't even need a tapping block. You can use any little piece of 2x4 you're going to have laying around your house, or you can go in your freezer and get a thing of butter, a frozen thing of butter, and that's going to work. So there's really not many tools that most people don't have to install this floor. Then you have it there. You're going to put your butter or your tapping block here, and you're just going to tap the end, and it locks right into that first existing piece. Then what you do, we're going to run this all the way down this row, and say we ran from that direction, and this is going to be the end of our row. We need a piece like that. What you do, you simply flip it around for the tongue side. I mean, you don't even need a tape measure, actually. Flip it like that, mark your edge right here at the edge of this piece, and you can take your jigsaw, which most people might not have, but it's only a $20 piece if you want to go and buy a cheap one at any hardware store. Or most people know at least one handyman in their general vicinity or neighborhood that's going to have a jigsaw. I mean, some people might tell you you need a miter saw, which is like a big circular saw, 10-inch blade with a handle, and that makes it a lot easier. You just chop it straight down. But for my purposes, I just want to show you how you can do this as cheaply as possible to add value to your house. So we'll take our jigsaw, we have our mark, and we're just going to square it off, mark it, cut with our jigsaw like this, and then slide our last little piece, after it would have been cut, right into here. And then the balance of this piece we can use to start our second row. And some things we want to take into consideration when doing laminate floors is your seam pieces, when we put them together like so, and then our next row is going to be coming in. You want to leave at least 6 inches between this seam and this seam for the random lengths for here, which will add more support to the floor. If you have your seams too close, then with wear and tear and walking back and forth, it may cause it over time to manipulate and move apart. So you want to leave at least 6 inches between your seam parts. Another thing that we want to do is you want to leave a 1/4 inch away from the wall on every corner or every wall of the room, because with this natural composite wood or natural hardwood, with the changes in the weather and hotness and coldness, the wood or laminate is going to expand and contract. So if you have it too tight and don't have that 1/4 inch expansion gap, depending on the weather, when that wants to expand, it's going to have nowhere to expand, and what's going to happen is on the seams, they're going to be pushed together and they're going to end up mushrooming up like so, and then it's going to cause a problem and you're going to have to redo your whole project. And another issue that you're going to have, like you want to put this in your dining room, you want to put it in your living room, or maybe just even in your kitchen. The one problem that you might run into, you start off your wall, we're running our rows, most people off your kitchen, you're going to have a back door entrance or door that you're going to have to go through. So that's going to be the hardest part of your project. And say this is our door, we're going to be running it through here. The problem is the door jambs on the casing. This being a commercial building, this is probably steel, so you're not going to have that in your house. It's going to be wood. And if you're a professional and have all the tools, you're going to have a jam saw or a multi-master metal blade to just run straight through and go boom, 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 boom at your height of either 8 to 12 millimeters, or if it's hardwood, 3/4 of an inch. But like I said, we're doing it cheaply. We don't want to rent that tool for $50 just for cutting out a couple jams. So what you also have is a hand jam saw, which is something like this, which you can get for like $5 at almost any hardware store. And all you're going to have to do is take your piece of laminate and just lay it on the ground just to give you where you want to go. And you're going to saw out your jamb manually by hand, which will only take a couple minutes. So now you have that out, and then when you go to cut your piece, it'll slide right underneath the jamb. So, that being said, when I install this stuff, sometimes I actually feel bad because I know how much people are paying for it, and I know how much it costs to install, and it's like something that's so trivial that they're spending so much extra money that they could do all by themselves in less than a day. Like take this room for instance. Just to estimate, I'd say it's about 500 square feet. And if they were to hire me to install laminate in this room, just in labor would probably be $1,000 to $1,200, and I could get that done by myself in less than an 8-hour day. So that shows how easy it is as well. And then once you finish laying your floor and you have all your expansion gaps around the outside, you're going to need to put up some trim. What they have here at Robert Morris is this cove base, which is just cheap rubber cove base. You put a little glue on the back and then stick them up. But to make it look nicer and more sharp, this is just painted white pine, and you can get this at any hardware store as well. This is kind of a basic colonial pattern, and what you do is you're going to run this along your bases, and at your corner here, where we have our wood with our gaps, you're going to have one piece and you're going to cut it at a 45-degree angle to go down into this corner, and then your opposite piece will be cut at the opposite 45-degree angle, and they'll just match up right there, and then cover your expansion gaps to give it a nice clean finish. And then for your outside corners, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to cut in an opposite direction. When your wall comes to here, you're going to cut at the 45 this way, so it sticks out to the outside corner, and from this way, cut it so it's going to stick out, and then you match it up right there for your clean finish of your floor. And that's the only thing that you might want your miter saw or chop box for, is because you can just slide it over to a 45-degree angle and make a quick cut. So for a relatively affordable price, you can install a laminate floor into your home by yourself, especially in this economy, without spending an arm and a leg.